Welcome. This week we're going over lessons 125 through 128. Lesson 125, fractions of 12 and 8. We started fractions a few lessons ago, and we have today and then the next lesson will be focused on fractions. So today, I think this is a really neat activity that they're going to do. You're going to get the fraction pieces. So I have the 1 here. We're going to do fractions of 12. Now you notice we don't have 1/12 of these. So we're going to use the halves, the thirds, and the fourths. But you're going to take this, you're going to put 12 centimeter cubes on this. Then you have the 2 halves. On each half, you put 6 centimeter cubes. Then you have your thirds. On each third, you're going to put 4 centimeter cubes. And on the fourths, they will place 3 centimeter cubes on each fourth. Then you'll ask them various questions. What is a half of 12? They'll say 6. What is a fourth of 12? 3. So they could use these fraction pieces with the centimeter cubes to find their answers. Then you'll do this a second time, but now you're going to use the eighths. So you'll have your whole, your half, your fourths, and your eighths. And you'll do the same thing with the centimeter cubes, but this time you're only going to use 8 on the 1, then 4 on each half, 2 on each fourth, and then you'll have your eighths, and each one will get 1. You'll ask more questions. And again, you'll learn different ways of seeing how many of 8, what's 1/4 of 8. So they're doing a little bit of division in here too. I think it's kind of neat that they're getting to do this at this level. And it's enjoyable. They don't feel stressed. They don't realize, ooh, we're going to do some division or we're going to do some multiplication. Doesn't feel like that, does it? Lesson 126, comparing fractions by weighing. We've done some weighing on the balance in previous lessons. And if you remember, we looked at the cups, and I have an example. This is really the size you want. You're going to be measuring the fractions. So they recommend having a rubber band on the side, putting your weight in the rubber band, then weighing it. My suggestion, if you're going to put a rubber band on one side, you should put it on the other cup just to get it as balanced as possible. I also think it's interesting how by weighing, children are going to be able to see which fractions are bigger. Which is bigger, 1/4 or 1/3? Which weighs more? Well, the bigger fraction is going to weigh more. Just another way of getting to see why 1/4 is not as big as 1/3. This ends with a game, Fraction War. This is found in the Math Card Game Book F7. This is a pretty nice war game as far as war games go, because you only have, I think, 30 something cards. In this game, you're going to use cards from the fraction card deck. You're just going to pull out the halves, the fourths, the eighths, and the ones. And your child will build the fraction chart of the 1, the halves, the fourths, and the eighths. And they can refer to that as they're playing the game. Lesson 127, lines of symmetry. Basically, a line of symmetry, we're going to be using the geoboard, means that what's on one side looks exactly like on the other side. So right now, this is our line of symmetry. We have the same amount of space on this side as we have on this side. You'll put a tile on here. Your child will have to put a tile on the other side to make it symmetrical. Then your child will come along and they do it correctly. We'll put it on this side. So our line of symmetry means that what's on this side is going to reflect and be the same as what's on the other side. You'll start off really basic, and then you'll get more intricate on how you place your tiles, and then your child will do the same on the other side. So you should come up with some pretty neat designs. And feel free, after you do it that way, that you could do it again. This time let your child be the one to start, and then you mimic what they put on. It does talk about the geometry reflector. Now, I think of all the lessons where we're going to use a geometry reflector, this one actually is probably one of the easiest ones to be able to see how this works. So here's the board with the two tiles. This will go in the middle, but you have to be able to put it on correctly for it to work. Now, I don't know, let me see. You can see it's not lined up, right? So I have to tilt this just right to get it to line up. There it is. Now it's lined up. So do you see that? See the reflection in the tile? So it looks like there's almost two of them. And hopefully I got that lined up. Like I said, it's really not as easy to do in the video. It is much easier to do as I'm looking at it this way. But one of the things I like is because you're using the tiles and you just use one when you first do this, you'll see it's really not that difficult. If you don't have the reflector, then just talk about this is your line of symmetry. This is reflected over to here. That's really all it is. This just gives us another way of seeing it. This ends with a mirror game with tangrams. You should have two sets of tangrams. You take one set, your child will take the other set, you will make a design with your set, your child will then mimic it. And you can see in this picture, so they're going to line up. So it almost looks like this is part of a bird, the dark, and then the light makes up the other half of the bird. So whatever design you make will be half, and your child will mimic the same design. It's a reflection of it. So when put together, it looks whole. Now here's a little thing to look out for. If you have a child who has some spatial reasoning issues, that's something I also struggle with myself. It can be challenging for them to find the tangrams and know which direction to place them. So you may have to help them. And it's okay if you need to help them. Let them try. And then if they're really struggling, come in and guide them. Whether it's you take yours apart and you just put one piece at a time. So you put one piece, they look for that piece, they match it up. You put another piece, they get their piece, they match it up. You may have to do it piece by piece because they may not be able to see it with the whole design made. So just be aware. That could be an issue. May not be, but if it is, then go ahead and guide them through this. Last lesson for this week, lesson 128, finding symmetry. So on the tangrams, they're going to find lines of symmetry, and they're going to use rubber bands. They'll put it on so that it will be divided in half. Then they're going to work with the solids, but it's not a line of symmetry, it's a plane of symmetry. We can't really call this a line of symmetry because it's curved. Remember, a line is just a straight line going in both directions. A line segment is when you just have a portion of the line. So you can divide this in half, and I'm going to use this fraction piece. If I put it like this, I can divide it in half, and that's a line because it's straight. It's a straight line segment. You can't do this on the solid. And as far as these terms, if they don't remember the names of these terms, it's all right. All right, we're done for this week. I hope you enjoy having this time with learning more about fractions, getting into a little bit of geometry. Notice there were not a lot of games this week. This is a great time that you can go through and pick out some games that can help strengthen where your child needs to be strengthened. Remember, you also have that 5th day. Let your child pick one of the games that they like to play. And it may not even be a real challenging game, but if they like it and they're enjoying it, then go ahead and play it. Join me next week as we go over lessons 129 through 132. Until then.